It is a great pleasure to welcome back to Cinema Showcase one of our finest actresses, Kate Nelligan. Kate, very good to see you again.
Thank you.
You know, in looking back over your career, you have a career steeped in the classics on the stage in Great Britain even before making a film. Do you think that prepared you in any special way for motion pictures, all that stage work?
It's odd. I don't know how it all happens, because we were trained over there in sword fighting and, classical dance, and we were doing, minuets and stuff that I just don't look back on and think, well, what were we doing, because I don't, there was never any video cameras in the school. There was no film cameras. There was no actual mention of film acting. I'm sure things have changed, but I'm talking about, I got out of school in 1973, and it was as if there was no camera work in the world. It was as if the motion picture camera had not been invented.
Or they didn't tell you about it at any rate.
Yeah, it was like they were still operating on the principle that, there were some vulgar actors who did that, but we'd rather not mention them. And I think it's a tremendous limitation. It was, I'm sure it's changed. But the good thing is that it prepared you. The whole standard was range, you were judged by your range. The whole training was about eliminating those things in your speech and your movement and your attitudes and your habits that limited your range. Somehow the opposite of what happens with classical American movie stars, who you go to see because of all their mannerism, because of all, what makes Clark Gable? I don't know. You can't get enough of him, though. And you don't want to see anybody else. But it's a very different approach. But when it comes to this kind of role of doing Lila in Prince of Tides, it stands you in good stead because you've been taught to erase yourself.
Was this? It certainly isn't giving anything away to say that in the Prince of Tides, the character of Lila, you have to age quite a bit, because there are flashbacks in which we see you as your lovely self today, and then we see Lila as somewhat 30, 40 years later. For one thing, that must have taken an incredible job of makeup. How long did the makeup take for you?
The makeup on the days of filming was only about 4 hours, but we had done dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of tests. We had done repeated tests and had tried all kinds of processes and prostheses and adding parts to my face and different wigs and different lighting and trying to save time once we got to it. Even so, we had to reshoot a lot.
Now, are you one of those actresses who feels terribly helped by that sort of thing? But if you're playing a 70-year-old woman, that knowing that you have all this makeup on, does that really help you as far as the character goes?
Oh yeah, it's the whole thing. You see, my view has always been just look in the mirror. I don't know about, anything else. Something happens to me when I'm doing Cora in Frankie and Johnny, and I've got this big hair, and I got a can of hairspray on, and I'm chewing gum, and I got false eyelashes on, and I'm dressed in stiletto heels and spandex. I look in the mirror and she's there. I don't have to look for her. I don't have to go find her. She's right there. Don't travel. She's right in the room. Yeah. And same with Lila. Lila always showed up. It's simpler that way. It's not you see, to me, I've never understood the mystery people bring to that. If I got you up as, Lila's husband, or we spent several hours doing that to you, you'd find him there.
Right.
It's weird.
In many ways, the character of Lila is central to the story of the Prince of Tides. Was she a terribly complex character to find the core of?
I always thought I thought I knew her. She's a lot like my mother. I had a mother like that. I had a very driven, imaginative, big personality, huge flaws, who loved her children and damaged them. And it was wonderful for me to bring part of her, not all of her, but part of her is there. And certainly my sisters and my father, my mother died many years ago, looking at her are going to say, oh my God, there she is.
Well, you can add this role in Prince of Tides to an impressive number of films, which I wish we had time to go into now, that I'd like to talk to about, which we've touched on before, films like Eleni, which will always be one of my favorite films. Beautiful, beautiful film.
Thank you.
So we'll save that for next time. For now, my thanks to you for taking this time out and for the Prince of Tides.
Thanks, Jim.